Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Way Up Podcast with your host, Geoff Knoll. In this week's episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing my brother-in-law, Ben Sandy. Ben is a husband, a father, and he works for a Springfield, Missouri company selling commercial refrigeration components. Because of a desire to be a better example for his children, Ben is now on his own personal development journey, and he is beginning to see the wins stacking up. The Way Up Podcast is sponsored by me. I'm a real estate broker in the state of Missouri, and I believe that this message is worth my investment. Hang with us till the end. I know you won't be disappointed. Hey, I'm excited to be here with my brother-in-law, Ben Sandy. He is really kind of killing it for being, how old are you, 26? 27? 26 years old. And holy crap, I wish I would be in your position when I was 26 years old. That's fantastic. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up, and kind of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, sure thing. I was born and raised in Springfield, Missouri. Lived here all my life. Mom and dad, they were from the area. They kind of met in the middle here in Springfield and set roots. So that's where we were born. Went to high school at Parkview High School, graduated in 2015. At that point, decided it was time to leave Springfield. I was kind of sick of it. You know, I think a lot of people get that way when they've been somewhere their whole lives. So I moved up to Warrensburg to attend the University of Central Missouri. We joked that all I got up there was my wife. Met for a year and met her. Decided school wasn't my thing, but very thankful that I at least went up there and tried it. We got her, and she's my rock man. At that point, kind of took a year off. Came back and utilized what we call the A+ program in Springfield Public Schools, which gave me some free schooling to attend OTC for a couple of years. Went there, decided I was going to study HVAC and refrigeration, which was a pretty new thing for me. Not really anybody in my family that did that. I always knew I kind of wanted to work with my hands, especially after making it up there to Warrensburg and deciding that business school really wasn't my thing. Probably could have been a little more focused on that, but came back working full time, taking night classes there. See, this would have been probably 2017, 18 at the time. Landed a nice job doing residential HVAC there. Moved in with Kelsey about that same time. Started talking about getting engaged, getting married, doing all that fun stuff. Worked the residential HVAC for a couple years. Learned a lot of good experience there. Get to meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of neat people, kind of like the position you're in now. I miss that side of it, actually. You know, it's not every day you just get to see people and talk to them like that. But decided the attics and crawl spaces and quite frankly some of the houses even that I was in just wasn't my thing. So
Yeah.
From there I transitioned into commercial refrigeration. An opportunity came up to work on basically everything cold inside a grocery store, a couple gas stations and stuff like that as well that we took care of. Did that for a couple of years before an opportunity really kind of fell into my lap to work for a good friend of mine. A great mentor, and that's where I've been for the last 3 years, man, selling parts for supermarket refrigeration. It's been a learning process, but it's kind of come full circle. So I went to school originally for sales and marketing, business related classes, and just kind of took the long way around to get where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's really fulfilling, the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting, man. We're working with a high level customer. We're getting to go toe to toe, learn a lot just from doing. I'm a big believer in experience and in learning from experience. I think that's the best way to do it. If you ask my parents, if you ask my sister or anybody around me, I've got to learn the lessons the hard way. So
yeah,
it's
your dad was on this show, and he did say the same thing about you. He said, it may not have been the path that he would have chosen, but you went your own route, and he said you turned out to be a better person because of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope I take that lesson with me in raising my kids. We've got one daughter that's a little older than 2 now. I think it's been 2 and 3 months, and I'll have to remember that. I've got a feeling she might be just like me.
Yeah. That's frustrating sometimes whenever you have a clear vision for your children or somebody, you see a way that you think is going to be the shortcut or the easier path or something, but
people want to do their own thing. People have their own idea. And really, if they don't get to forge their own path, they feel unfulfilled, or they feel like they're living somebody else's life. You know that. You lived that. You had that opportunity.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So we had a little bit different childhoods. I would love for you to talk about your childhood, kind of what you saw modeled by your dad. Your dad was a entrepreneur. He is definitely a hustler and always working. So talk about what you grew up, what you got to witness, how he was mentoring, and then just some of the struggles that you saw as a kid that made you not want to do the exact same path. You wanted to blaze your own trail.
Yeah. So as a kid, we spent a lot of time watching him and learning from him. And really, it was work ethic mainly that was drilled into us. He did a great job of being involved. He wasn't missing ball games. He wasn't missing important events like some people in that position could be, and I know now that takes even more effort and more sacrifice to make sure that he's not missing those things. And so it wasn't that we sacrificed a lot for him to be in that position. Looking back on it now, like I said, you just see how easy it would be to work through all day long and keep going, not make it to baseball games. I remember we would always do Sunday lunches at my papa's, my mom's dad. And he would come, he would eat, and then we'd go back to work. And a lot of times we were all there together. I got memories as a kid. We would go on the weekends and help him clean the office, help him. There were times he would bring home work at night, boxing up smaller items and building little boxes. He'd kind of get us involved in it. So he wasn't really taking time away. He kind of made it a family deal. And that was always fun. Looking back on that now, it's special to think about. At the time, I may not have wanted to do it, but it was inclusive. It made sure that he wasn't taking time away from us to accomplish his goals, and that's a good lesson to learn now, to know and remember.
That's actually really good that you bring that up. I think about my son, the frustration of, I want to accomplish all of these things, and it's easier to just be busy and do what you're working on. I'm focused on this while I'm missing out over here. Even if we go on vacation, it is really easy for me to be on my phone looking down. I'm right here in this world whenever I'm missing everything that's right around me. So
For sure.
Being very intentional and focused in that. But I like you said that you were included in what he was doing. So I try to do some of that with my son, but I don't always get agreeable attitude or whatever, which
Well,
I
like
would
I
say
said,
a lot of it has to do with the age.
he
I
may
don't
not
know.
have got an agreeable opinion at the time either, but
Yeah, I would say
I
that's probably normal. I would say
yeah.
it's normal. I know I was not welcoming any kind of work that it wasn't paying me money. At least I wasn't down for that.
No, sir. We didn't miss out on much. We didn't sacrifice a lot. He always made sure that we had more than enough, probably more than we ever deserved or ever needed. But I sure can't complain about that. I'm taking my own lessons on how I was raised and applying the things I do and don't want to do to being a father now. So,
Yeah.
it was the way that it was, and we had it really well. And I wouldn't change much of anything.
So what were some of the struggles that you felt like you faced as you were growing up? And it doesn't have to be when you were a kid. Like, you're out of high school, you're moving out, you're just starting to make your own way. What struggles did you face?
We went through a rough period there with mom and dad. When I say I spent a year in college, I spent a year in college on their dime, and basically what it came to was me not keeping up my side, my not doing the schoolwork. I had a lot of fun, did a lot of duck hunting at the time, a lot of playing golf, just not much school. So that led to a period of time that got pretty rough between me and them, and ultimately they said, "You were done. Figure it out on your own." And that kind of kick-started me into what I've got now, what I am now. But at the time was pretty scary.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks being on that end of tough love
Yeah.
whenever it's happening. But looking back, thank God they did that. Aren't you so grateful that your parents said, you're cut off. You can't just keep riding this free train. You got to do this on your own.
It's everything. And that's another lesson. I know it's easier said than done now, but another lesson I hope I take with me into parenting my own kids. And I see it in a lot of different places right now, similar situations that I have my opinions on, but it's not my place to really do anything. But I think it's more common than we all realize, or maybe it's just as common as we think. But
it happens all the time. But there's a pain point in every relationship that gets to that point. There is a pain point that is the only option. Either the parents or the provider gets fed up to hear, and they say, you know what, this isn't going to happen anymore, or they realize this is going to be the reality of the rest of our lives.
Yep, absolutely. And that propelled me towards, I worked for some family friends at the time. They owned a farm, and I got free rent as long as I was at work every day. They farmed, and they had an ice business. And so they manufactured ice, packaged it, and we delivered it. And that was some of the hardest working days of my life, 15, 16-hour days, no holiday weekends, lessons learned at 5:30 a.m. when it's time to bag for the first time. They're beating on my door. It's time to go. And that was kind of the tough love that I needed from somebody other than my parents that I frankly wasn't going to listen to anyways at that time. And so I'm thankful for that family that kind of took me under their wing and taught me a couple lessons of things that I don't want to do. Here's what you do it for a little while, and hope you remember how hard it is doing that, because you don't ever want to be back there.
Right.
That's actually, at the time that was, I knew I was never going back to Warrensburg, and so I figured I'd better latch on to who is my wife now, who I met up there. I knew she would be going back, and so I thought I better solidify that relationship. And that's kind of when we started dating. And it's a funny story that's how I met her parents for the first time, was working for the ice company, delivering ice at the resort. At the time, I don't know what they thought of me. I think you've probably heard those stories. And so we look back now and laugh about that, but it's funny how that connection happened. And I spent about a year over there working at the ice plant before I decided I needed to do something else. But I lived in this little, not even a double wide, we'll call it a single wide, gosh, from maybe the 60s. That was my free rent, AstroTurf on the front porch. Kelsey would come and we'd have heart to hearts on the porch swing in the middle of the night up there, and lots of memories, and good and bad. But that propelled me into going back to school. That's also what got me into the HVAC and refrigeration. Those guys up there kind of, they fix their own equipment, stuff like that at the ice plant. And so they talked about the opportunity that there was in that trade. And I thought, what else am I going to do? So we headed that up, and it's worked out well. But that kind of led to, we got into renting our first house when we moved back to Springfield, and things were smooth sailing for a while. She was a nurse and I was working as a technician, and all was good. We had 2 good dogs laying right here next to me, and at the time, and they're still here. Not much going on at that time. We were just kind of enjoying being young, trying to get our feet under us and settled. It wasn't for a couple of years after that. I would say a bigger struggle for me was kind of a loss of identity. I don't know that I ever had what I felt like was much of an identity. I didn't know who I was. And so I kind of found that through cars early on, working on old cars, and friends I made through all that stuff. Still do that to the day, man. It's carried me for 5 or 6 years now doing that stuff. It's my passion, and that's what got me through. Unfortunately, it was a fairly expensive hobby, and so I didn't get to do much. I always looked for ways to do quite a bit on a little bit of money, and I felt like we did pretty good with that. I had a lot of self-taught things, learned to weld, learned to wrench on cars, work on engines, had good friends and buddies that helped me with that. And so that kind of helped me find meaning outside of work and providing and being a good fiance at the time. More recently, like I said, I've got a daughter that's a little over 2 years now. So Kelsey got pregnant, and that was really the wake up call for me to figure something out. At the time, I'd gained not a lot of weight, but more than I wanted to, more than I'd really realized. And so kind of my second coming to terms with myself was fitness. And that's kind of what brought us back together. I've been going pretty strong for probably a little over a year on that with all different types. You know, I got into riding bikes. That was the first thing I did, doing some gravel rides, mountain bike rides, stuff like that. I participated in some races, but I'm not a racer. I'm a finisher. I think we'll get into that as far as running goes here in a minute. And that helped me a lot, especially through pregnancy and stuff like that. With her being pregnant and in the early stages, I needed a release, and cars were tough because, like I said, it's expensive, man. And a lot of that work's loud. A lot of that work takes a lot of time. And so it wasn't really working out to do too much of that stuff. So whenever you started your 75 hard journey last year, that kind of propelled me into the next level of, man, I got to figure something out here. I'm too young to be putting on this weight and be feeling like this. I was hurting and having back problems and just knew there needed to be a change. And so that propelled me into mainly running now. And so you and I participated in our first event, I think, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Have you run yet since?
I have. Yeah, I finally got back into it this week, man. I took the week off and recovered and rode bikes the following weekend and felt pretty good. But I don't know about you, but I'm ready to do it again. I feel great.
I will do it just because I'm easily pushed into peer pressure for this stuff. But 25K is where I draw the line. I'm not doing more than that. I don't think. Don't push me.
For that, and it just give me some purpose, man. I've lost a significant amount of weight, feeling as good as probably eating as good as I ever have. Just motivated and trying to ride that wave while I can.
So you just said something. You said motivated. I have seen a difference in you more than just the physical. You've absolutely physically changed. You look great. You are active. You're doing all of these things that most people will never get up off the couch and do. So that's fantastic in and of itself. But the real magic is in the change in the mindset. I want you to talk a little bit about that, because I have seen you consuming books, doing different things. I know that you're constantly absorbing podcasts and all kinds of different things. So just speak a little bit on the mindset shift and kind of what brought that. And I know that feeling some pain physically was a start, but talk about that. What got you into the knowledge quest?
The knowledge quest, I feel like, is secondhand to the main purpose for me. And really the main purpose for me is to lead and be a leader, be an example for my wife and for my kid. And I'll say we plan to have more kids. And so I want to be an example for any kids we have in the future. Just be a leader, man, a father figure. And a lot of it starts there. You know, I was bad about sleeping in. You know, my wife and my baby would come in there and wake me up in the morning, 5 minutes till I needed to be getting ready to go to work. And I'm like, man, that's pathetic. You know, it's not what a father figure does. You know, finding something to get me out of bed in the morning and to work after was really the main goal. And all of the rest of it's just kind of a side effect, you know, figuring out how to do those things better. But ultimately that's what I want to do. And so far I think it's working out pretty well. But I feel like my passion now is like you said, learning, man. The information search is just fascinating to me. I feel like the man that stops learning is a dead man walking, and I'll argue that with anybody, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how one thing feeds another. Once you get into the journey, though, you start the fitness and, okay, well, I need something to listen to. So you put on a podcast, or for me, when I started, it was the motivational videos of motivational speakers, Les Brown, Norman Vincent Peale, all of these different like motiversity type motivation speeches that are just feeding in all of this stuff of, you know, what you are, leadership, getting into leading yourself even. What are you aimed for? What goals do you have? And once you start working on that, You're like, oh crap. Well, my financial side of my life is not where I want it to be. My family relationships are not where I want them to be. And you start working on all of this when it just started with, man, I'm starting to get fat. I need to shave a couple of pounds. So one good decision just kind of domino effects, and you start to become a different person.
Yeah. And it all, it's getting out of bed in the morning. It's just, and even not that, if you don't want to exercise in the morning, you just do something. Just do something for yourself every day as a start.
So
And what's
of all of the content that you've consumed so far, can you say this is a book that has been instrumental or has made a huge difference in me? A book that you've read, a podcast that you've listened to, any content you've consumed?
most recently, I'm actually I'm nearing the end of Never Finished by David Goggins, and that's a good one. I've enjoyed that. Goggins I go back and forth on my feelings about him. He's obviously a badass,
He's a
and
badass.
it's a different approach. I haven't been listening to too many like in your face motivational books like that. I had it purchased for a little while on Audible, and so I thought, well, I don't have any other credits right now. Let's give it a listen. And it's been great. His story is fascinating. One I really enjoyed recently is a book called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll. And he was a sedentary middle-aged man. His wife was what he would refer to as a witch doctor. She always had these potions and detoxes and cleanses and this and that and another that he would make fun of. And while he was sitting on the couch eating cheeseburgers, he worked an office job. He ultimately came to one day, if I'm remembering correctly, felt like he was going to pass out walking up the stairs or something along those lines, which was enough to propel him into I believe he was named one of the world's fittest men in his mid 40s. He was a vegan powered triathlete at one point in time who had a legitimate opportunity to win the Ultraman event. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it's a double Ironman back to back down in Hawaii. So 2 Ironmans in 2 days, fully vegan powered. Which I'm glad I learned about his story and his vegan eating. It's helped me clean up my eating quite a bit. I'm not going down that road completely, but I think that it's a good model. It's a good thing to learn. Dude, something as simple as we started doing morning green smoothies that came out of his book, and for me they're changing my daily routine to the point that that's what I do every morning after I exercise, and I feel amazing. Something as simple as just switching up one meal a day like that. And so I'd highly recommend his book. He's gone on to do massive vegan cookbooks. He's gone on to do some other projects. Some I agree with, some I don't. They do a pretty deep dive into the whole carbon dioxide pollution thing with farming cattle and stuff like that, which is what it is. And I'm pretty unopinionated on it just because I haven't done a lot of research on it there. So he's definitely an activist in some other areas as well that I'm not that I'm not don't agree with him. I'm just not real interested in it. But
Sure.
But specifically Finding Ultra is pretty fascinating. Just any man's story and woman's story for that matter, from normal to unordinary is fascinating. It's when you hear about average people becoming unordinary. I mean, that truly is inspirational. You hear all these stories about these phenomenal athletes. Well, where'd they come from? Were they born that way? What tricks did they have up their sleeve? What opportunities were they given? And when you know that it's nothing more than what you've got going on every day, maybe less, then what's your excuse?
Yeah, it's the compounding interest of getting 1% better every day.
That's right.
You don't have to do anything, magical. You don't have to be 100% better to get 100% better. You just have to do a little bit every single day. Stay focused and stay after it.
That's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying really hard to for anyone that's done a study in zone 2 training, or the 80-20 rule they call it, trying hard to build my aerobic base right now, and it involves so much slow running. It's just slow running, more slow running. And so that's kind of maybe I don't even feel like it's 1% every day, but I know it's compounding over time, and that's where I'm at right now, trying to build some of that up and
Well,
see where that.
it is hard to see it whenever you're so close to the situation. But whenever you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and they're like, holy crap, what happened to you? You look fit, man.
That's the biggest motivation there. It's always cool to hear people recognize that. And
Yeah, you just got to bump into people every like couple months instead of every day. And then you get to hear that, because the people that are super close, they don't necessarily see it. And, you know, your family that lives in the same house as you, your little one's not going to say anything about it, but it's probably inconvenient to change a lot of things in your house. I know in my journey, I've had, you know, I don't eat the same way that I did. And that's,
mm-mm.
I'm not going to say that's annoying, but it's not convenient whenever things are different. You know, I have different things that I need to shop for, and I have different things. So I can see how it could be annoying a little bit from the outside, but who is the person that I want to become, and what do I need to do to become that person? So, I mean, you are on a trajectory to become what is the goal? What is the end goal for you?
I don't know. You could call it a lot of things, but I don't know if I can narrow it down to anything. I want to be 50, 60 years old and still running around playing with my kids and my grandkids. And I mean, longevity, I guess. I want to compete as well. You know, I want to get faster. I want to get stronger. I want to see how far I can push myself. Those are things I can take with me for the rest of my life, I feel like. And, you hear a lot of stories about guys running and riding bikes and doing this stuff well into their 50s and 60s. And there's not much else you can say you can do that with, and it's easy to do. It's just a matter of doing it. It's not real expensive to do much of that stuff. And nothing else makes me feel as good as I do whenever I go exercise.
Yeah. No, I actually have a friend named Russ Dixon who lives in Waynesville. He's retired. I think he's 68. I could be wrong on his age, but he's in his upper 60s or early 70s, and he still runs half marathons. He runs trail runs. He's all of the 5Ks, local 10Ks. He's out there every time.
Probably significantly faster than we just ran.
I guarantee he's faster than I am. I guarantee it. I've run with him before, and
yeah,
I'm trying to keep up just so I don't feel like a chump that an old guy is smoking me.
Man,
I want to do that too. I want to do that too. Not that it makes a difference to me to be this runner fast. I don't know that is necessarily my goal. I want to be healthy. I want to have longevity, just like you said. I want to have mobility. I don't want to be hurting and not be able to be active in my kids and my grandkids. I want to be able to do things and enjoy my older life whenever I have the money and the time and all of these things that so many people sacrifice on the way to getting there.
Yeah.
And I want to figure out how to do this stuff so I can enjoy all of it on the way up.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to, the faster you can get a handle on it and maintain, the easier it's going to be, the better off you're going to be. I can't imagine I participated in sports in high school. And so let's say from 2015 to 2021, it spiraled out of control that fast. I can't even imagine not paying attention for 20, 30 years and then trying to get a grasp on it.
Mm-hmm. It goes really fast.
My best piece of advice is start now. Start slow and start now. Just do it.
Start now. Yeah. You don't have to tackle everything overnight because it's not going to happen. That's frustrating. That is going to be the quickest way to crash and burn out. You're not going to keep going. You're not going to have the steam to keep going.
Absolutely.
What would be a thought that you would like to leave with the listeners of something that you would encourage them to do? You did just say, get started, start now. But what is a thought beyond that you would leave with the listeners?
If you're interested in taking control of your life like that, do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. And I know that in a way you are doing it for everybody else, but I feel like kind of like what we talked about. You start small and all of a sudden it compounds into other aspects of your life, your work, your family, everything else.
But do it for yourself. I do love that. That is actually makes a whole lot of sense, because you have to have intrinsic motivation. You have to have something from within, because motivation in itself comes and goes. There's going to be a morning, no matter how many motivational speakers you listen to, that you wake up and you're like, I don't want to get up this morning. I don't want to do this morning. I don't want to work out today. I don't want to run today. I go through that, and I battle that right here in my brain on a fairly regular basis. I don't know about you. I battle it, but it's empowering whenever you win and you say, you know what? I'm serious about this. I actually give a crap. I'm going to get up. And the runs, we've talked about this before, whenever it's pouring down rain and it sucks outside a whole lot, those are the runs that you feel more empowered. You feel like you have a breakthrough of, I can do things that I had no idea that I could do. And the fact that it sucks just makes this more of a victory.
Yeah. Thanks for finishing my thought. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And I feel like you win that battle in your own head against yourself, and it gives you a clear head, a clear mind going into every other aspect of your life.
Yeah, it rolls over into everything else. So you, in business, you have an obstacle. No, I can do that. I can do that. It may not be what I want to do, but I know that I can. We ran a 25K at the lake, and that sucked. That was not fun. but I'm glad we did it.
Without a doubt.
I'm glad we did it.
It's funny you ask about books and podcasts, and my podcast that I listened to today, and I'll have to send it to you. I don't even remember the name of it, but it's talking about nutrition during endurance events. And I don't know about you, but I knowing what I know now, and I'll send this to you and let you listen to it as well. But I think I fell way short on.
I'm sure I bombed it.
So, I come home with something new to tell my wife every day, and she usually rolls her eyes at me. She doesn't care, but like I said, pursuit of knowledge is everything, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I've got less than a minute, but I appreciate you, man. I'm so excited to see where you're headed, because it's a really exciting place.
Yeah. Likewise, man. You're a big reason why I'm here, why I'm doing this. You kind of kick-started it all, and I appreciate that.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah, boy.